A simple act of cruelty, caught on camera, ignites a firestorm of change no one could have predicted. This is the story of a homeless man, a disgraced officer, and the ripple effect of one moment that changed everything. What would you do if you witnessed injustice? Let us know in the comments. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. The city air is thick with the smell of exhaust fumes and street food. People hurry along the sidewalks, their faces illuminated by the neon glow of storefronts. Amidst the urban hustle, Arthur Finch sits quietly on a patch of cardboard near a busy intersection. His meager belongings are tucked into a worn backpack propped against a lamppost. A weathered baseball cap rests in his lap, a few coins scattered inside. Arthur's eyes are closed, his face etched with lines of weariness and resignation. He's a fixture on this corner, a silent testament to the city's indifference. Most people pass him by without a second glance. Some toss a coin or two into his cap. Others mutter under their breath, annoyed by his presence. A young couple approaches, their laughter echoing in the twilight. As they pass Arthur, the woman nudges her partner and whispers something in his ear. He shakes his head and pulls her along, their laughter fading. Arthur doesn't flinch. He's grown accustomed to the whispers, the averted gazes. He's learned to exist in the periphery. A police cruiser pulls up to the curb, its lights flashing. Officer Kevin Bryant sits behind the wheel, scanning the street. He's a young officer, eager to prove himself. He spots Arthur and sighs, his expression hardening. Bryant steps out of the cruiser, his boots hitting the pavement. He approaches Arthur, his shadow falling over the older man. "Hey, you can't sleep here. Move along." Arthur opens his eyes slowly, meeting Bryant's gaze. He doesn't speak. "I said, move along. You're blocking the sidewalk." Arthur reaches for his backpack, his movements slow. "Don't give me any trouble, old man. Just get out of here." Bryant kicks Arthur's baseball cap, sending the coins scattering. A gasp ripples through the small crowd that has gathered. Several people raise their phones, their cameras focused on the scene. A young woman, Chloe Miller, steps forward, her phone held steady. "Hey, what are you doing? Leave him alone." Bryant turns to Chloe, his face flushed with anger. "Stay out of this. This doesn't concern you. It concerns everyone when you abuse your power like that. I'm recording this." Another officer, Anna Reed, emerges from the cruiser. She's older, more seasoned, and her expression is a mix of concern and caution. "Officer Bryant, what's going on here?" "Just dealing with a vagrant. He refused to move." To Arthur, "Sir, are you all right? Did he hurt you?" Arthur shakes his head slowly, his gaze fixed on the scattered coins. Reed looks back at Bryant, her eyes narrowing. The crowd murmurs, their phones still recording. Bryant realizes he's lost control of the situation. Bryant shifts uneasily under Reed's gaze and the scrutiny of the crowd. He tries to regain his composure, but his voice wavers slightly. "He was obstructing pedestrian traffic. I asked him to move and he refused. I had to take action. You kicked his belongings. That's assault. We all saw it." Several voices in the crowd murmur in agreement. Reed looks from Bryant to Chloe, then back to Arthur, who remains silent, his dignity unbroken despite the humiliation. "Officer Bryant, I think it's best if you return to the car. I'll handle this." Bryant hesitates, his pride wounded. He opens his mouth to argue, but Reed silences him with a sharp look. He glares at Chloe and the others recording before reluctantly turning and walking back to the cruiser, his steps heavy with frustration. Reed kneels beside Arthur, gathering the scattered coins and placing them back in his cap. "I apologize for my colleague's behavior, sir." "Are you hurt?" Arthur shakes his head, his voice barely a whisper. "I'm used to it. No one should be used to being treated like that. Is there somewhere you can go tonight? A shelter, perhaps?" Arthur looks up at Reed, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. He's not used to kindness from a police officer. "There's one a few blocks from here, but what? They're usually full." "I can make a call, see if they have a bed for you tonight." Arthur hesitates for a moment, then nods slowly. A small spark of hope flickers in his eyes. Reed helps Arthur to his feet, then turns to Chloe and the others who are still recording. "Thank you for staying. Your willingness to document this incident is important. If any of you would be willing to give a statement, it would be greatly appreciated." Chloe steps forward, her phone still in hand. Of course, this kind of behavior needs to stop. Others in the crowd nod in agreement, stepping forward to offer their contact information. Reed takes down their details, a sense of determination hardening her expression. Police station, captain's office, night. Captain Eva Rodriguez sits behind her desk, reviewing the footage from Chloe's phone. Her face is grim as she watches Bryant's actions unfold on the small screen. Reed stands before her, her expression equally serious. This is unacceptable. Bryant's behavior is a disgrace to this department. I agree, Captain. I've already filed a report. Good. I'm placing him on administrative leave pending a full investigation. This isn't the first complaint we've received about his conduct, but it will be the last. We need to make an example of him. What about Arthur Finch? I've arranged for him to stay at the shelter, and I'll be reaching out to some local organizations to see if we can get him some more permanent assistance. Reed nods, a glimmer of hope softening her expression. Perhaps something good can come from this, she thinks. X-Titty Street, night. Arthur sits on the edge of his bed at the shelter, his backpack at his feet. He looks around the small, sparsely furnished room, a sense of quiet gratitude washing over him. It's not much, but it's safe, and tonight, he doesn't have to worry about where he'll sleep. He closes his eyes, a single tear rolling down his cheek. For the first time in a long time, he feels a flicker of hope. The next morning, the video of Bryant's actions goes viral. News outlets pick up the story, and social media explodes with outrage. Justice for Arthur trends nationwide, and calls for Bryant's termination flood the police department's phone lines and social media accounts. Captain Rodriguez addresses a room full of officers, her voice echoing with authority. We are facing a crisis of public trust. Officer Bryant's actions have brought shame upon this department, and we must take decisive action to address this. Effective immediately, we will be implementing mandatory de-escalation and sensitivity training for all officers. We will also be reviewing our internal complaint procedures to ensure transparency and accountability. A murmur runs through the room. Some officers nod in agreement, while others shift uncomfortably in their seats. Lieutenant Johnson, a veteran officer with a skeptical expression, raises his hand. Captain, with all due respect, this is an overreaction. One bad apple doesn't spoil the whole bunch. This isn't just about one officer, Lieutenant. It's about the message we send to the community. We need to show them that we take these matters seriously and that we are committed to earning their trust. Emir News Studio. A news anchor reports on the incident, the viral video playing on a screen behind her. The incident has sparked a citywide debate about police brutality and the treatment of the homeless. Community activists are calling for systemic change, and protests are planned for later this week. Arthur sits across from a social worker, Sarah Jenkins. She's helping him navigate the resources available to him. We can help you apply for housing assistance, food stamps, and job training programs. I don't know where to begin. That's what we're here for. We'll take it one step at a time. Inti Police Station, interrogation room. Bryant sits across from internal affairs investigators, his face pale and his hands fidgeting. He denies any wrongdoing, claiming he was simply following protocol. The investigators present him with the video evidence and witness statements, their expressions unwavering. Chloe sits on her couch, scrolling through social media. She reads comments from people praising her for standing up to Bryant and others criticizing her for interfering with police work. She sighs, feeling the weight of the situation. Inti Police Station, Captain's office. Captain Rodriguez sits alone at her desk, her face etched with weariness. She knows the road ahead will be difficult, but she's determined to make a difference. She picks up her phone and dials a number. I need to schedule a meeting with the mayor's office. We need to discuss some serious changes in this department. Arthur walks down the street, his backpack slung over his shoulder. He pauses at a shop window, catching his reflection. He looks different, cleaner, a little more hopeful. He straightens his shoulders and continues walking, a newfound sense of purpose in his stride. The ripple effect of one moment has begun to change his life and the city around him. The video of Bryant's actions continues to circulate online, sparking protests and calls for police reform. News outlets cover the story extensively, interviewing community leaders, legal experts, and people experiencing homelessness. The incident becomes a focal point for discussions about systemic issues within law enforcement and the need for greater accountability. Captain Rodriguez faces mounting pressure from city officials and the public. She announces a series of reforms, including mandatory bias training, body cameras for all officers, and a review of the department's use of force policy. These changes are met with mixed reactions. Some praise Rodriguez for taking swift action, while others argue that the reforms don't go far enough. Arthur, with the help of Sarah Jenkins, begins to rebuild his life. He secures a place in a transitional housing program and starts attending job training workshops. He's also connected with a therapist who helps him process the trauma he's experienced. Bryant is formally charged with assault and faces disciplinary action from the police department. He pleads not guilty, claiming he was acting in self-defense. The case draws national attention, further fueling the debate about police conduct. Chloe, now hailed as a local hero by some, continues to advocate for police reform. She attends community meetings, speaks at rallies, and uses social media to raise awareness about issues facing the homeless population. She also receives online harassment and threats from those who support Bryant. One evening, Arthur attends a community forum on police accountability. He's hesitant to speak at first, but encouraged by Sarah and Chloe, he shares his story with the audience. His words are raw and powerful, moving many to tears. For so long, I felt invisible, like I didn't matter. But that night, when that young woman stepped forward and defended me, it changed everything. It showed me that someone cared, that my life had value. The audience erupts in applause, offering Arthur a standing ovation. He feels a surge of hope, a sense of belonging he hasn't felt in years. Captain Rodriguez, also in attendance, watches Arthur with a mix of admiration and guilt. She knows the department has a long way to go to rebuild trust with the community. But she's committed to making a change, one step at a time. Later that night, Chloe and Arthur talk outside the community center. You were amazing up there. Your story touched so many people. Thank you. I never thought I'd have a voice again. You always had a voice, Arthur. You just needed someone to help you amplify it. They share a smile, a silent understanding passing between them. The ripple effect of one moment continues to spread, changing lives and challenging the status quo. As weeks turn into months, Arthur continues to make progress. He completes his job training program and secures a steady job at a local grocery store. He thrives in the structured environment, his quiet diligence and kindness earning him the respect of his coworkers. He also becomes a regular volunteer at the community center, mentoring young people who are struggling with similar challenges he faced. Bryant's trial begins, drawing intense media coverage. The prosecution presents compelling evidence, including Chloe's video and eyewitness testimonies. The defense argues that Bryant was acting within his authority and that Arthur was resisting arrest. The jury deliberates for days, the tension in the courtroom palpable. Captain Rodriguez continues to implement reforms within the police department, facing resistance from some within the force and skepticism from the community. She holds regular meetings with community leaders, seeking input and working to build bridges. She knows that true change takes time and consistent effort. Chloe, despite the ongoing online harassment, remains a vocal advocate for police reform. She works closely with community organizations, pushing for legislation that addresses homelessness and promotes social justice. She also develops a close friendship with Arthur, their shared experience forging a bond of mutual respect and understanding. One afternoon, Arthur receives a call from Sarah Jenkins. Arthur, I have some good news. We found you an apartment. It's a small one-bedroom, but it's yours. And it's affordable. Arthur is speechless for a moment, tears welling up in his eyes. He can barely believe it's true. After months of living in transitional housing, he finally has a place to call his own again. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much. He moves into his new apartment the following week. The simple act of unpacking his few belongings, filling him with a sense of profound gratitude. He hangs a small framed photo of his late wife on the wall, a reminder of the love he lost and the strength he found within himself to keep going. The jury in Bryant's trial reaches a verdict: guilty. He's sentenced to community service and anger management counseling, and he's permanently barred from serving in law enforcement. The verdict sparks mixed reactions. Some celebrate it as a victory for justice, while others criticize it as too lenient. Captain Rodriguez holds a press conference acknowledging the verdict and reiterating her commitment to reform. This verdict is a step in the right direction, but it's not the end of the journey. We still have a lot of work to do to rebuild trust and ensure that something like this never happens again. That evening, Arthur, Chloe, and Sarah gather at Arthur's new apartment to celebrate. They share a simple meal, their conversation filled with laughter and hope. "I never thought I'd have a home again, let alone friends like you. You deserve it, Arthur. You've shown us all what resilience truly means. And this is just the beginning. You have so much to offer this community." Arthur raises his glass, his eyes shining with gratitude. To second chances, and to the people who make them possible. They clink their glasses together, the sound a quiet echo of the ripple effect that started with one moment of cruelty, but ultimately led to a wave of change, hope, and healing.